Hey, friend, welcome to the Rooted Wellness Podcast. This podcast is dedicated to empowering Christian women to live holistically and on purpose. I am your host, Amanda Adams. I'm an occupational therapist, owner of Rooted Therapy and Wellness and Amanda Adams Coaching, as well as the founder of my signature course, The Restoration Remedy. I am excited to share this space where faith and wellness collide with you. Whether it's cultivating a peaceful mind, nourishing your body, deepening your walk with God, or anything in between, this podcast offers biblical insights, practical wisdom, expert guidance, encouragement, and a community of like minded women. Discover how to live holy, mind, body, and spirit, rooted in faith. Today, we're talking all about letting go of perfectionism and embracing small steps of faith. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by perfectionism or like your small efforts aren't enough, then this episode is for you. Have you ever hesitated to start something because your efforts didn't feel good enough or big enough? It's easy to believe the lie that what we have to offer is too small to make an impact. But the Bible reminds us that God can take our small, faithful steps and create something extraordinary. I think about the story in John 6 where the little boy had 5 loaves and 2 fish. It seemed laughably small compared to the need, but in Jesus's hands, it became more than enough to feed thousands. And there was even excess left over. This is a reminder that he can do exceedingly and abundantly more than we think or dream. And the beautiful thing is that God doesn't expect us to have it all figured out. He doesn't ask for perfection. He just simply asks for willingness. He calls us to be faithful in what we have, trusting him to multiply our efforts. Zechariah 4:10 says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." So how many times have you embarked on a new adventure, like working out, eating a particular way, starting a Bible study or a Bible reading plan, journaling, reading a book, where you set your sights high, you have these ambitious goals, and you get off to a great start, only for life to come along and disrupt your fancy plans? Me too, sister. Too many times to count. Oftentimes, all it takes is one little thing to knock us off course, and then we just throw in the towel, and then that's usually followed by this vicious cycle of shame and guilt, feeling like a failure and berating ourselves. Ultimately, we end up sabotaging ourselves from the get-go by setting the bar way too high. Now, don't get me wrong, like having goals, expectations, and integrity are all great, but there's a big difference between those things and setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves that are based out of fear of failure or judgment, shame driven, and often rooted in an all or nothing mindset. We get it in our head that if I can't execute my plan perfectly, I might as well just forget about trying it all. Perfectionism often disguises itself as a virtue, but it's typically rooted in deeper wounds, whether that's experiences of trauma, rejection, or unmet needs in our formative years. It's not just about wanting to do things well, it's a protective response to past pain. Perfectionism leads us to believe that the outcome depends entirely upon us. And this can manifest striving, performing, overachieving, and overworking in order to prevent criticism or disappointing other people, as well as a way to gain attention, love, and validation. It creates a false sense of safety and control. It's a way for us to create a sense of order and stability in an unpredictable world. We tell ourselves, if I'm perfect, then I will be loved, accepted, valued, and safe. And that is a lie straight from the pits of hell. Understanding this connection can help us approach perfectionism with compassion and begin the process of healing. So, here are some ways that perfectionism can show up in life: relentlessly criticizing yourself, setting unrealistically high standards for yourself, and then even if you meet them, you feel like it wasn't enough, and then you're off to the next big thing. Avoiding taking healthy risks or going after new opportunities because the ideal of not succeeding perfectly feels unbearable. Struggling to rest or delegate, believing that everything must be done just right and that your way is best, often at the expense of your own peace and well being. Measuring your worth by how you stack up to other people or placing high expectations on them as well, or believing that you need to earn God's love through flawless obedience and perfect service, forgetting that His grace is a gift. If any of those resonate with you, then I want you to know that your desire to get it all right and do everything perfectly isn't about laziness or a lack of discipline. It's a response to pain. Our original design was not created to experience this pain. This pain is the result of sin disrupting the human experience and us living in a fallen world. That pain that you're running from needs to be exposed to the light so that you can be healed and freed from it. God wants you to bring that pain to Him and let Him heal those wounds. Psalm 34:18 reminds us, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Know that healing isn't about instant transformation. It's a process and a journey. Our instant gratification culture has conditioned us to believe that everything needs to happen right now. And that's just not how healing works. It takes time. You didn't get here overnight, and you aren't going to get to where you want to go overnight. Remember that progress is greater than perfection. So celebrate the little nuggets of progress. Those are the things that are going to add up to the big transformative changes that you desire. Also, remember that you don't have anything to prove to the world. You are here for an audience of one. And be kind to yourself as you unpack all of this. I know it can be a lot. When we participate in a spirit of perfectionism, we're subtly placing our trust in our own efforts rather than in God's grace. It shifts our focus from what God has already accomplished to what we think that we need to do. When we participate in perfectionism, we can't rest in the present and enjoy the blessings that God has given us. It pulls us away from living authentically and trusting God. The relentless pursuit of perfection can keep the body in this chronic state of fight or flight, contributing to physical and emotional exhaustion. Trying to be perfect all the time is literally exhausting because it convinces us that we have to do more and be more and achieve more before we can ever feel like enough. But that's not from God. That means that we have to release the need to control everything and trust God to lead the way. Letting go doesn't mean that we stop caring. It simply means that we stop carrying the weight that was never ours to bear in the first place. Healing perfectionism isn't about abandoning excellence by any means, but learning to rest in God's grace. When we release the need to strive and perform for the world, we open our hearts to the abundant peace, love, and joy that God has for us. So as you move forward, start by embracing small steps and trusting that God will multiply your efforts. God would rather have a few minutes with you in prayer than for you to not pray at all because you think that you have to have this power hour for prayer and all the right things to say to Him. It's better to focus on getting a couple of minutes of movement in each day rather than not doing anything just because you don't have an hour to go to the gym. Improving one aspect of your nutrition is way more beneficial than eating junk all the time just because you don't have time to meal prep every meal and eat the perfect number of macros every day. As the quote says, the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Breaking free from perfectionism isn't easy, but here are a few steps that you can take. Surrender control to God. So pray and release your need for perfection, and then trust God to guide the process and use your efforts, even if they feel incomplete. Focus on small, intentional steps of obedience and faith, and trust that God will multiply your efforts. Learn to rest in God's presence. Rest isn't laziness. It's an act of faith that God is at work even when you are still. And remember who you are. Your worth is not based on your achievements or how many boxes you check off the list or what you produce, but your identity as a beloved child of God. So what small step can you take today? Maybe it's spending 5 minutes in prayer, decluttering one drawer, going for a 10-minute walk, or reaching out to encourage a friend. Every small act of faith is a seed planted. So as you step into your week, Just let go of the need to have everything perfectly figured out before you take action. Small and perfect steps in the right direction can create huge ripples that affect every area of your life and the lives of those around you. So just remember that perfectionism isn't a fruit of the Spirit. God doesn't call us to do it all, He calls us to be faithful with what we have. Trust Him to multiply your small, faithful steps into something greater than you could ever imagine. So let's be faithful in the little things, lean into grace, and watch God move. If you're ready to dive deeper into living life aligned with God's rhythms, I'm excited to share with you that my new course, The Restoration Remedy, is officially live. In it, we explore how to heal and restore God's intended rhythms for your mind, body, and spirit. You'll find biblical principles, therapeutic tools, and coaching support to help you live with peace and purpose. For those in the Southeast Texas area, there's also the option of in-person sessions. If you would like more information, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Rooted Therapy and Wellness, and you can also head over to rootedtherapyandwellness.com for more details. Be sure to schedule a free consultation call while you're there. I'm so glad that you joined me today, and I hope that you'll keep coming back for more. If this episode blessed you, please hit the subscribe button or share with a friend who may need to hear this message. If you wouldn't mind leaving me a review, I would greatly appreciate it. Your feedback helps others to discover the show. Before you go, I want to send you out with a blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May He make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. Until next time, stay rooted in Him.